My name was Nemesis. They call me Joe Smith now, but that's not who I really am. For 25 years, I've been living a lie, hiding in the shadows of Granite City as a garbage collector, keeping my head down and my powers buried deep inside. But let me tell you the truth about what really happened all those years ago, and why I've been pretending to be someone I'm not. My brother and I weren't born to be enemies. We were just two boys with extraordinary abilities, trying to survive in a world that feared us. The people of Granite City didn't understand what we were, and when fear consumes people, they do terrible things. They burned down our home, trying to kill us both. We escaped, but our parents didn't. They died in those flames, and that night changed everything between my brother and me forever. He chose to be their hero. I chose to be their villain. At least, that's what everyone believed. My brother became Samaritan, the golden boy who saved the city from criminals and disasters. I became Nemesis, the dark reflection, the one who reminded them that power could be used for destruction just as easily as salvation. But the truth is more complicated than the stories they tell about us. For years, we were evenly matched. Every time he saved someone, I was there to challenge him, to push him, to make sure he never got complacent. The city needed both of us, even if they couldn't see it. A hero without a villain is just a person with power, and power without purpose corrupts everything it touches. I gave him purpose, and he gave me something to fight against. But then came that final battle, 25 years ago. The confrontation that supposedly killed us both. We fought in that warehouse with everything we had, the building crumbling around us as our powers clashed. I had my hammer, the one weapon that could match his strength, and for a moment I had the upper hand. He was hanging from that ledge, fire consuming everything below us, and I could have let him fall. But I didn't. At the last second, something in me changed. Maybe it was seeing the fear in his eyes, or maybe it was realizing that I'd pushed him too far this time. I reached down to pull him up, to save my brother, but it was too late. The ledge gave way, and Samaritan fell into the flames below. I watched my brother die, and I died that day too. At least the person I used to be died. I let the world believe that both Samaritan and Nemesis had perished in that fire. It was easier that way. Without my brother, what was the point of being Nemesis? A villain without a hero is just a criminal, and I never wanted to be that. So I disappeared, took on a new identity, and tried to live a quiet life among the very people who had once cheered for my destruction. For 25 years, I kept my powers suppressed, working as a garbage collector, invisible to everyone around me. I aged, though not as much as a normal person would. My strength remained, but I buried it deep. I told myself I was done with the superhero game, that Joe Smith was all I wanted to be now. Then Sam Cleary came into my life, this 13-year-old kid who lived in my building, who somehow saw through my carefully constructed facade. He suspected I was Samaritan from the beginning, following me around, trying to catch me using my powers. The boy was persistent, I'll give him that. He reminded me of myself at that age, curious, determined, and too stubborn for his own good. At first, I tried to discourage him. I didn't want anyone getting close, didn't want to risk my secret being exposed. But Sam was different. He believed in heroes, really believed in them, even in a city as corrupt and broken as Granite City had become. His faith was infectious, and despite myself, I found myself caring about what happened to him. When those teenagers started picking on Sam, I couldn't help myself. I stepped in, used just enough of my strength to send them running. It felt good to use my powers for something positive again, even if it was just protecting one kid from some bullies. But it also aroused Sam's suspicions even more. Sam broke into my apartment one day and found my collection of newspaper clippings about Samaritan. I had kept every article, every story about my brother, like some kind of shrine to the hero I could never be. It was stupid to keep them, but I couldn't let go of that connection to him, even after all these years. Things escalated when Cyrus, a young gang leader, got his hands on Nemesis's old hammer and mask from a police station raid. He thought he could become the new villain, thought he could bring chaos back to the city. But he was just a punk with delusions of grandeur. He didn't understand what it really meant to wield that kind of power. Cyrus started a fire at the power station, trying to draw Samaritan out of hiding. He wanted to prove himself by killing the legendary hero, not knowing that Samaritan was already dead and that the only person who might respond to his challenge was the very villain he had idolized. I couldn't let innocent people die because of some kid's fantasy. Sam was trapped in the burning building, and I knew I couldn't save him as Joe Smith. I had to embrace who I really was, had to use my full strength, even if it meant revealing the truth. When Cyrus saw me lift his hammer, the same hammer that I had forged all those years ago, he realized the impossible truth. I wasn't Samaritan. I was Nemesis, the villain that he had been trying to emulate. The shock on his face was almost comical. His hero was right there in front of him, and he didn't know whether to worship me or kill me. I told him the truth then. Samaritan was the good guy, and I was the bad guy. But what he didn't understand, what nobody understood, was that being the bad guy doesn't mean you have to be evil. Sometimes the bad guy is just the one who's willing to do what the good guy can't do. I fought Cyrus and his gang, not as a villain seeking destruction, but as someone trying to protect the innocent. It felt strange, using Nemesis's powers for heroic purposes, but it also felt right in a way I hadn't expected. Maybe I had learned something from my brother after all. Sam was hurt in the fight, and as I carried him to safety, he looked at me with those wide eyes and asked me if I was really the bad guy. I told him I was, but I could see him struggling with that concept. How could the bad guy be saving him? How could Nemesis be the hero of this story? The truth is, good and bad aren't as simple as the comic books make them seem. My brother was a hero, but he was naive, always believing that people were fundamentally good if you just gave them a chance. I was a villain, but I understood that sometimes you have to fight fire with fire, that sometimes the only way to protect the innocent is to become the monster the guilty fear. In the end, I saved the city not as Samaritan returned from the dead, but as Nemesis choosing a different path. I let Sam and a few others know the truth about who I really am, but to the rest of the world, Joe Smith just disappeared after that night. Let them wonder what happened to their mysterious garbage collector. I'm still not a hero. I'm still the villain in this story. But maybe that's exactly what Granite City needs. Not a shining symbol of hope, but someone willing to walk in the shadows, to do the hard things that heroes can't do, to be the bad guy who still protects the innocent. My brother died believing in the goodness of people. I live knowing their capacity for both good and evil. Maybe that makes me a better guardian than he ever was, even if they'll never build statues in my honor or tell stories about my heroic deeds. Sam still visits sometimes. He understands now that the world isn't divided into simple categories of good and evil. He's learned that sometimes the bad guy can be the one who saves you, and sometimes the hero is the one who dies trying to save his enemy. I'm Nemesis, and I'm done hiding. But this time, I'm going to be the villain that this city deserves, not the one it fears. There's a difference, and after 25 years of running from my true nature, I finally understand what that difference is. The hammer feels familiar in my hands again, but now I wield it not for destruction, but for a different kind of justice. I am the bad guy, and maybe that's exactly what Granite City needs me to be.